Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin miner stocks plus Coinbase because it is a crypto play and the crypto bull run's coming up and the perfect dip buying opportunities that are sitting right in front of us right now. Let's get it. So the first two Bitcoin miner stocks that we're going to pull up today, because we personally own them, are BTBT and CIFR. So as you guys can see on BTBT from this shooting star candle we had here, it basically was pretty much a sell-off. Just because the shooting star candle is green does not necessarily mean anything. Again, this was at resistance, and also if it had had a full body close above this resistance, it would not have been bearish, but because it closed practically almost perfectly below resistance and had a shooting star candle formation, in this particular situation, the shooting star candle does not matter. So, I'm sorry, the fact that I misspoke. The fact that it is a green shooting star candle does not matter. So, with that being said, from the peak to where we are right now, you're talking about a 50% retracement. It did come down below the EMAs, and we have not actually had it close below the EMAs, although if we do this week, that is confirmed bearishness. MACDs might be looking like in the next few weeks they might have a death cross here. The RSI already did. But am I surprised that it came back down below the EMAs? Not really. I mean, I was kind of expecting it. If you guys take a look at this candle right here, you can see that it pretty much more or less did close below the bottom EMA here, although it's very, very close to having closed above it. It's actually quite hard to tell. Really have to zoom in here to see that it did actually close down below it. Sometimes trading patterns do that. It's a bit odd, but it does happen sometimes. So not really surprised to close below, but pretty good discount right now, I would say, from the highs. Potentially a good place to start DCAing in. What I think is going to happen is I think that it is going to come back down to the support box between $1.55 to $2 a share. That is the perfect bulk buying opportunity, in my opinion. Could it go lower? Of course it could, but we'll talk about that if or when it gets to that point. Personally, I don't think it will. Reason being is because once we came above it in April here of last year, meaning it's been in the zone for almost a year. Based on time alone, I just don't see this thing going back down below the zone. As you guys can see, we were below this zone for almost a full year, and it took a year to break out of it. But once we did, it's basically been holding this range pretty much almost impenetrably the entire time. So let's take a look at the potential targets we could have here. So if you bought now and basically held it straight up to the previous peak, you're talking almost a 2x on your money. That's a 95% gain. That's huge. That's actually bigger than some of the potentials on the grayscale trusts in the immediate short term. But obviously, the grayscale trust could potentially have a bigger upside than these Bitcoin miner stocks. So something to keep in mind. If we get to the top of the support here to the previous peak, you're taking a look at 162%. And from the bottom at about $1.50 a share, you're talking more than a 3x at this point. You get roughly almost 250% on this position. So CIFR, also very similar. I would say this is actually probably a better buy than BTBT because it is closer to the support box, although it's completely up to you which one you want to buy. As you guys can see here, every time we got in the support box, all three of these times we had a massive rip to the upside. So something to keep in mind there. But before we get the measurements, let's talk about the actual price action. So no confirmed close below yet. We basically have another 2 days of trading to see if this thing is actually going to have a close below the EMAs. Then I would consider that to be bearish and say, okay, maybe buying in this box is your best bet. MACD is getting ready to have a death cross. Whether it actually will or not this week, we'll just have to wait and see. This particular pattern right here of the golden cross, death cross, this may take a couple of weeks to play out. Keep in mind, this is on the weekly. RSI has had a death cross. I would say we're still firmly in bullish territory on CIFR on these two indicators. No divergences going on right now. So in terms of the buy zones, you have 226 to 266 as the current support. And then your resistance is 501 to roughly about 540 a share, with the previous peak high being here at roughly about 560 a share. Do I think it's going to go back down to this macro support zone here? No. Reason being is because this is all resistance, which has now been turned into support. Every time we hit this resistance flip zone that's flipped into support, we have gone up massively. We just have to get above this one now. So with that being said, from the top of this zone to the previous peak, you're taking a look at almost a 107% gain, or slightly more than a 2x. And from the bottom here on the bottom of the support to the previous peak, you're looking at roughly about a, looks like probably maybe about a 2.5x, so 150%. That's still pretty good if you ask me. Something to keep in mind, these things towards the end of the year, if the Bitcoin cycles are to remain true, will be pushing all-time highs along with Bitcoin, so keep that in mind. Okay, so the ones we haven't looked at before is HUD-8. We're going to look at HUD-8, RIOT, Mara, and Coinbase. So HUD-8 support is between $4 and $9 roughly. The resistance between $17 and $22 a share. The price action itself has closed back below the EMAs, so that's a little bit worrying. But again, you have major support here. This is almost a 2-year-long support zone, so it's going to be pretty hard to break that to the downside. I just don't think it's going to happen. But you do have a death cross here on the MACD and also the RSI. We are also in bear territory on this one. So the measurement currently from where it is right now to the bottom of this resistance zone, 86%, to the top of it, roughly about 150%. And so we'll count that also as the top of the support, since that's essentially where it's at right now. So from the bottom to the bottom of the macro support to the bottom of the resistance is 361%, and to the top would be about 516%. So massive potential moves. How I would be playing this one if it was me is I would basically, based on the price action and the fact that we got rejected off this resistance and we have a massive, not just a weekly close, but a massive weekly close below the EMAs, I would say if it was me, I would not start buying until this thing entered into this zone. That's just my opinion, of course. Y'all can do what you want. It's your money. So now we're going to look at RIOT. RIOT and Mara, just so y'all know, are the two largest Bitcoin miners in the United States. So very similar to HUD-8, we had a weekly close below the EMAs. The RSI and the MACD both have had a death cross. Death cross on the MACD is yet to be confirmed because we have 2 more trading days this week. So your support is between $8.30 to about $10 or so a share. Resistance between $18.60 to about $21. So from where we're at now to the bottom of the resistance, you're taking a look at roughly about a 70% gain. To the top is about a 90-ish% gain. Now, if we go from the top of the support zone to the bottom of the resistance, 81%, to the top of resistance, roughly about 100%. So you get about 2 extra money. From the absolute bottom to the bottom of the resistance, about 120%. And to the top, roughly about 150%. So pretty good potential upside there. Very similar to HUD-8. If I was going to do this, or play this particular position, I would not get in until the price entered into this support box. Simply based on the fact that it closed below the EMAs and it's already so close to the support zone. For me personally, already being in CIFR and BTBT, I would want to wait until it actually gets into that zone. So Mara, this is a very interesting one. This one, in my opinion, is probably a little bit different than the others. Still technically bullish on the MACD. Clear bearish divergence going on there between the RSI before and the price action. So we had a death cross on the RSI. Not really too concerned about that. What is more concerning to me is the potential that we may actually close back down below this support, or what would have been a support zone. And if that happens, this cannot be considered to be support yet because we have closed below it with a candle body close. As you guys can see here, we broke out of it, came up, got rejected. Now it's just a question of whether the price action will close within this zone or not. If it closes within the zone, I would say it's potentially turned into support. If it does not, then it still holds true as resistance. So the EMAs sit between 1560 and 1840 per share. Your macro support is $8 to $12. To be honest, I would not touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. I think the other four are better opportunities. Reason being is because if we take a look at the price from the current price even down to the support zone, you're talking about a 27% drop all the way down to a 55% drop. That is a huge drop. The downside risk is much less with the other four. But if we were to take a look at the current price to, let's just say the top of these candles, so roughly about 56%, and to the previous swing high, roughly about 83%, so not quite as good as the others. If you were to catch it down in the support box here, which I think it is going to come back down to, and you'd be looking at anywhere from 120% to 140%, potentially all the way up to 172%. And if you were to really be good at this and catch it all the way down at the bottom and just bulk buy, you'd be taking a look at 247%, 278%, and 330-ish% respectively. So Coinbase is the last one. You guys can see the very clear reversal here. We had this kind of shooting star-ish doji looking candle. The fact that it closed equal to this green candle and it was red and it closed back within the resistance zone was enough to tell me that this thing was probably going to dump. And that's exactly what happened. Just so you all know, the drop from where it was to where we currently sit right now is about 29%. So not as atrocious as some of these other Bitcoin miner stocks. Coinbase is not a Bitcoin miner stock, but they do, they are a crypto exchange. So we're going to throw it in there. But if I was to buy this, I would not want to buy until it gets down to at least this blue EMA here. So roughly about $120 a share. The support zone is between 105 to 114. Do I think it's going to crack that to the downside? No, I do not, because we've held this as resistance for almost 2 years. And when we got a breakout, the breakout was absolutely huge. This thing did nearly a 3x, and we have not even retested the support zone yet because it's so bullish. The way I would play this is I would wait to buy any Coinbase at all until it gets between $105 to $170 a share. That's just my opinion. Again, we sold off from the RSI, got the death cross. MACD is still bullish. But if you were to pick this thing up at the blue EMAs, hold it to resistance, you'd be talking anywhere from 26 to about 48% gain. So that's not bad. And of course, you could pick up Coney based on these prices too as well. If you wanted to wait to buy Coney until Coinbase gets between these areas that we talked about previously here, you can do that as well. So the top of the support to basically the bottom of the resistance is 33% and then 55% respectively. And from the bottom of this major support zone to the bottom of the resistance, 42%, and top of resistance, 65%. In my opinion, I think when this thing hits between the bottom of the support and the bottom EMA here, I think that Coinbase is going to have a huge bounce. It's not just because of the upcoming Bitcoin bull run, but a lot of these big finance mega giants like BlackRock and Fidelity, their spot Bitcoin ETFs are already available to buy and trade on the markets. And more than half of these Bitcoin spot ETF issuers, more than half of them have chosen Coinbase as their custodian. So that is extremely bullish for the price. And also Coney, in my opinion, not financial advice, but in terms of BTBT and CIFR, just so you all know, we have bought more, but we're not going to show that in this video because we have a lot to cover in the charts. So keep a lookout for that on either Saturday or Sunday, whether we upload a video on Saturday or not. So hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see y'all later. Peace.